The hull of the Solace trembled as it pierced the edge of Zeta 9's thin atmosphere, slicing through gray clouds like a blade. Below, jagged rocks and deep ravines veined the asteroid's surface. A desolate wasteland. Perfect for peacekeeping drills, at least, that's what Command claimed. Lieutenant Cole Darrow sat strapped into the drop harness, helmet in his lap, knuckles pale against dark synth leather gloves. His squad was quiet. Too quiet. "Tell me again," Corporal Rios said, breaking the silence, "why we're training with aliens who nearly nuked each other 5 years ago." Cole didn't look up. "Because some ambassador thinks a selfie with a human squad will calm the next Senate meeting." A hollow chuckle passed through the comms. Even in armor, Rios had the slouch of a street kid who never fully trusted comfort. The green light flashed. "Drop signal." "Time to play nice," Cole muttered, sliding the helmet on. The HUD flickered to life, showing synced vitals, weapon status, atmospheric pressure. All normal. But his gut twisted. They dropped fast. Wind screamed past their descent packs until the jets kicked in, slowing them before boots hit dust. The ground crunched, loose shale and crushed bone-white debris. "Unit 7, position confirmed," Command crackled in their ears. "Begin joint patrol. Accord units will rendezvous at Grid Echo 5. Cole scanned the horizon. A few scattered ridges, faint structures half buried in ash. No sign of their alien partners. "Fan out," he ordered. "No assumptions." 10 minutes in, the first scream cut through the channel. "Grid Echo 5 is compromised. Taking fire, unknown signatures." The line went dead. Cole's pulse spiked. He signaled his squad to move. Dust kicked up behind their sprint. As they reached the ridge overlooking Echo 5, the truth hit like a hammer. The Accord unit wasn't late. They were gone. Scorch marks lined the clearing. Armor plating from 3 species, Sharon, Vexery, and Jill, was scattered, melted, or sliced. No bodies. Just the aftermath. Then came the sound. A low whine, then impact. The ground exploded beside them. Dirt and fire erupted, sending 2 Hellwalkers flying. Cole shielded his visor and rolled behind cover. "Ambush!" Rios yelled. "Heavy ordnance, southeast quadrant." "Move!" Cole barked. "Get out of the open." They scrambled between crags as plasma bolts rained down. The attackers weren't pirates. These were professional, using triangulated fire, suppressive patterns, and precision strikes. This was designed. Planned. "Where the hell is Command?" someone shouted. Cole was already overriding his helmet protocols. One option left. He opened a private channel to squad control. "Authorization, Omega 70. Activate override protocol. Override confirmed. Neural inhibitors offline. Endurance limiters disengaged. Pain response threshold, 92% suppressed." His heart rate dropped. Breathing leveled. The HUD dimmed, reducing visual noise. The world slowed. Clear. Quiet. He turned to his squad. "Override is live. You know what to do." Rios nodded without hesitation. "Hellwalkers, baby." Another explosion rocked the ridge. Cole moved first. He vaulted over the edge, sprinting directly toward the source of fire. His rifle barked 3 times, each round finding its mark in the exposed necks of armored targets. They weren't human. Blue blood sprayed the dust. Behind him, the rest followed. Hellwalker Unit 7 moved like a machine of many limbs. Silent. Fast. Relentless. Rios pulled a wounded alien from behind a broken console and drove a blade into its chest. 2 more fell to precision shots from Alvarez, perched atop a fractured rock face. A Vexery heavy cannon roared across the field, narrowly missing Cole. He dove, rolled, came up behind a half-crushed drone hauler, and slung a grenade. The detonation vaporized the cannon team. From his perch above, Virex Stahl watched the chaos unfold through a transparent observation panel. "These numbers are wrong," he muttered, staring at the monitors. Casualty probability was 30%, max. Not this. His age shifted uncomfortably. They're sustaining injuries far beyond expected tolerance. Vitals suggest internal bleeding, fractures, full-body trauma, and they're still advancing. Virex's eye ridges flared. "Increase the pressure. Send in the mechs." On the battlefield, metallic stomps echoed as 3 Accord siege suits descended. Towering walkers armed with concussion beams and reinforced plating. "Rios." Cole called out. "Left flank. I'll draw fire." He broke into a sprint again, ignoring the searing pain in his leg where shrapnel tore muscle. A beam scorched the ground beside him, but he didn't stop. He never stopped. Cole darted between cover, leaped onto the first mech's leg, and fired 2 concentrated rounds into its joint servos. Sparks erupted. The massive machine tilted. Rios hit it from the side with an EMP charge. It collapsed with a shriek of torn metal. The second mech turned toward Alvarez. Before it could fire, Alvarez dropped down, unloading a full clip into its exposed rear thrusters. It spun wildly and detonated. The third was already on top of Cole. It raised its cannon arm, ready to crush him. But Cole didn't run. He stared into the glass cockpit, eye to eye with the alien pilot. And smiled. The pilot hesitated. Big mistake. Cole launched a plasma dagger through the cockpit's vent, straight into the pilot's throat. The suit fell, limp and dead. In orbit, Virex watched the footage in silence. "What are they?" his aide whispered. Virex didn't answer. Down below, Cole limped to regroup with his squad. Their armor was scorched. Blood, red and knot, coated their gear. Breathing ragged. Limbs trembling. But none of them sat. None lay down. "Status?" Cole asked. "Alive," Rios rasped. "Angry," Alvarez added. Cole looked at the smoldering field. 30 Accord soldiers. 3 mechs. All gone. And they were still standing. "Then we keep moving," Cole said. "We find the bastard who set this up." And with that, they disappeared into the dust, like ghosts made of fire and grit. They moved through the ravine like shadows wrapped in steel, broken and bloodied, but steady. Cole led the way, rifle low, head on a swivel. The override protocol muted the pain, but the damage was real. Every motion scraped against torn muscle, fractured ribs, fraying nerves. No complaints. No breaks. No slowing down. "Anyone else taste copper?" Rios muttered through the comms. "Shut up," Alvarez replied. "Means your brain's still in there." "Yeah? That's not comforting." Cole tuned them out, eyes locked on the jagged cliffs ahead. The path narrowed, high ground on both sides. A kill zone, and they all knew it. He raised a fist. The squad stopped. The silence was thick. No wind. No critters. No sign of Accord movement. "Something's off," Cole said quietly. "Think they're regrouping?" Alvarez asked. "No," he replied, narrowing his eyes. "They're watching." He pointed to a slight shimmer near the ridge. "Cloaked drones." Without a word, he pulled a flare from his belt, twisted the cap, and tossed it high. The flare ignited midair, blue light slicing through invisibility fields. 5 drones popped into view. Alvarez didn't wait. A burst of gunfire dropped 3. Rios handled the rest with a sweep from his repeater. Sparks and shattered lenses rained down. "Recon tech," Rios said. "They're trying to predict our next move." Cole knelt by one of the drone carcasses. Its chassis was marked with an emblem, a red eye, partially closed. Not standard Accord military. He froze. "This isn't just a suppression op," he said. "This is black level. Off books." "Meaning?" Alvarez asked. Meaning someone up there doesn't want survivors. The squad fell quiet. Before they could move, a distant voice rang through the comms. Alien, crisp, monotone, translated through the HUD. Human squad, stand down. Lay down arms. You will not be harmed. Cole snorted. They always lie when they use will not be harmed. A shimmer appeared ahead, and a tall figure stepped into view. Not armored. Not armed. A negotiator. Virex's voice. Cole recognized it instantly. You're a long way from your tower, Cole said aloud. Virex's face flickered into a floating projection above the envoy, eyes sharp, tone calm. Lieutenant Darrow. Your resilience is admirable. But unnecessary. You've proven your point. Return with us. This doesn't have to escalate. Cole's voice was flat. You attacked us first. A test, Virex replied, unfazed. One your species passed. Let's de-escalate. Cole looked at his squad, bloodied, wounded, 3 of them with sealed-up injuries that would need surgery. Alvarez leaned against a rock, barely standing. Rios held pressure on a side wound with his rifle strap. You tried to kill us to test us? No one was meant to die, Virex said, tone mechanical. You were underestimated. Rios scoffed. I feel honored. Cole stepped forward, rifle lowered but ready. You're scared of us, he said. Virex hesitated. Cautious. No, Cole snapped. Scared. You thought we'd break. We didn't. And now, you're trying to wrap this in diplomacy. The projection flickered. Enough, Virex said. If you continue this aggression, you leave us no choice. Cole's eyes narrowed. Then don't give us one. The projection vanished. Seconds later, tremors rippled through the ground. Alvarez looked up. Company. From both sides of the ravine, Accord reinforcements descended, armored foot soldiers, hovercrafts, riot mechs. An entire cleanup force. Trap confirmed, Cole muttered. Form wedge. Push to the cliffs. They move fast. The first wave hit like a hammer, pulse rifles, sonic grenades, electrified blades. But the Hellwalkers didn't scatter. Rios spun and brought down 2 with headshots. Alvarez clipped the wings of a hovercraft, sending it crashing into a cliffside. Cole dashed through the chaos, low and lethal. He slammed into a soldier, drove a blade under the chin plate, spun, and shot 2 more in the knees before finishing them with clean shots. He didn't think. The override wouldn't let him. Only precision. Only survival. A mech charged from the left. Cole pivoted, grabbed a fallen shock baton, and jammed it into the exposed vent of its leg. Sparks burst. The mech twisted, fell, and crushed 3 of its own. Left side clear. Alvarez shouted. Push now. Cole barked. They reached the cliff base, rough stone, 20 meters high. Rios, boost, Cole ordered. They formed a ladder, 1 soldier climbing, the others pushing. One by one, they scaled the cliff under fire, dodging blasts, throwing frags, covering each other. When Cole finally climbed over the top, his muscles trembled, not from fatigue, but restraint. He looked back. The Accord soldiers below stopped. Not retreating. Just staring. Some backed away slowly. One even dropped his weapon. Cole met the gaze of a young alien officer, barely out of training, hands shaking. The officer whispered, not realizing the comms were still on. Why aren't they dying? Cole turned away. High above, in his observation vessel, Virex paced. Pull the troops, he ordered. The aide looked stunned. They're winning. No. They're surviving. That's worse. The aide blinked. I don't understand. Virex stared at the screens, Hellwalkers vanishing into the jagged mountain pass, bleeding but breathing. They don't stop, he said quietly. They should have collapsed hours ago. Instead, they're adapting. Improving. And they're angry. He turned to his strategist panel. Prepare a full psychological dossier on Lieutenant Cole Darrow. I want everything. Childhood, training, trauma history. What do we do if they don't come back? Virex didn't answer immediately. Then he said, almost to himself, then we hope they don't find us first. Back in the mountains, Cole found a plateau to regroup. They settled behind natural cover, silent. Alvarez collapsed beside him, groaning. I'm running out of reasons why I'm still alive. Cole sat beside her, staring out into the distance. Because we don't have an off switch. She laughed bitterly. Not funny. Wasn't a joke. Rios limped over, chewing a pain patch like gum. What now, boss? Cole leaned back, looked at the stars starting to pierce the dusk sky. We find their command post. He looked at the others. And then we make them understand. The command hub rose from the asteroid's crust like a fawn, dark metal, shielded, hidden beneath years of dust and secrecy. No lights. No guards. Just silence and suspicion. Cole crouched behind a ridge, peering through the cracked lens of his scope. Inside that bunker was Virex's field post. No one outside. That meant everything inside. We breach quiet, he said over comms. No dramatics. Rios, patched and limping, smirked. That's a shame. I like dramatics. Alvarez checked her remaining rounds. We go loud if we have to. Cole nodded once. Always. They moved in from 3 angles, timing each step with the shift of wind and shadow. At the side panel, Cole pulled a cracked access unit from his belt, sliced the junction wires, and fed the device a short shock. The panel clicked open. Inside, the air was cold. Sterile. The kind of cold built for clean decisions and clean denials. They moved through narrow corridors, past servers humming with data and cables like nerves in a dead beast. Ahead, a central room glowed blue. They entered slowly, rifles up, fingers ready. Virex stood at the center, hands folded behind his back, surrounded by projection screens. He didn't flinch. I expected you sooner, he said. Cole stepped forward. You should have left when we did. You think this is a victory? Virex asked, voice even. You've proven one thing, humans are uncontrollable. Not uncontrollable, Cole replied. Just unwilling to lose on someone else's terms. Virex circled a console. You think you've scared us? What happens when fear becomes unity against you? Cole didn't blink. We've fought worse. We became worse. Behind him, Alvarez found the recording unit. A full log of the mission, visuals, biosigns, audio. Proof. She nodded at Cole. He stepped closer to Virex. You tried to make us look like savages. Instead, you broadcasted discipline, sacrifice, loyalty. What do you think happens when the galaxy sees that? They won't believe it. Cole tossed a drive onto the console. They will. Because we'll show them everything. Start to finish. No edits. No excuses. Virex stared at the drive like it was poison. You'll be labeled dangerous. Cole shrugged. Already are. Rios pulled up the central terminal. This connects to the Accord Galactic feed. Can go live in under 10 seconds. Virex moved to stop him. Cole raised his rifle. Don't, he said. That'd be your last mistake. Virex froze. Rios looked at Cole. Say the word. Do it. The feed blinked green. Then, broadcasting. Across star systems, on stations and colonies, on ships and worlds bound by fragile treaties, millions of species saw the truth. Helmet cam footage, Cole taking a direct blast and still charging. Alvarez dragging a wounded Rios under fire. Drones analyzing pain thresholds and failing to understand the results. Accord soldiers retreating as humans advanced with shattered limbs, blood-soaked armor, and dead silent eyes. They saw unity. They saw madness. They saw purpose. In the bunker, Virex backed away from the screen as if it could bite him. "You've made a mistake." Cole stepped forward. "No. You made one when you thought pain would be enough. Humanity is a threat. We're a warning." Virex shook his head. "You won't survive the fallout." Cole lowered his rifle. "That's the thing about us, you never know when to count us out." Alvarez shut down the transmission. "It's done." Rios cracked his neck. "So, what now? Victory lap?" Cole turned toward the door. "We leave." "You're letting him live?" Alvarez asked. Cole paused. "He needs to watch the reaction," he said. "Let him feel the fear he tried to bottle. Let him live with it." As they stepped out, Virex called after him. "This doesn't end here." Cole looked back once. "It never does." They emerged into the open, the wind whipping harder now. Storms rolled across the surface. The sky was the color of old bruises. The squad walked toward the evac beacon Alvarez set. Quiet. No cheers. No celebration. Just breath. Just heartbeat. "Hey," Rios said after a while, voice low. "You think the galaxy actually got it?" Cole stared up at the stars. "They will." 3 days later, Accord broadcast Nexus. A new directive appeared across all military and diplomatic frequencies. Notice, human combat units to be classified under Extreme Response Protocol. Engagement not advised. If encountered, do not attempt detainment or confrontation. Avoid prolonged conflict. Attached was a single image: Cole Darrow, bloodied, cracked visor, weapon at his side, eyes sharp. Caption only: "They do not stop." 3 weeks passed. Zeta-9 had been locked down. No landings. No transmissions. The official Accord statement blamed a communications failure. Unofficially, every military analyst knew something seismic had cracked under that dusty surface. And across the galaxy, they whispered one word with new weight. Humans. Cole Darrow sat in a debrief chamber 2,000 miles above Earth, orbiting in the dark hull of the Tegara station. Across from him, Admiral Lena Knox stared through a reinforced glass wall where tactical analysts dissected battle logs. "You broke the Accord's face," she said, arms folded. Cole didn't respond. He hadn't said much since returning. The override protocol left marks internally. Quiet wasn't peace. It was the body remembering what it had to survive. "They're calling you a myth," Knox added. "Even your own people." He leaned back slowly. "I didn't do anything alone." "Doesn't matter. You're the name now." Cole turned his eyes toward the glass. "Then make the name useful." Knox raised an eyebrow. "You want to go back?" "I want to finish what they started." "You think they'll stop at one test?" She tapped her data pad, hesitant. Virex was recalled. Stripped of rank. Internal hearings are scheduled. "And?" Cole asked. "And," she said carefully, "he's not the problem anymore. The system is. You proved we won't be steamrolled. Now they're terrified we'll become something worse." Cole's gaze didn't shift. "Then they should be." Across the Orion Assembly's core chamber, a vote was underway. Dozens of species debated, with a new, aggressive edge, over human military inclusion. The footage of Zeta-9 had been watched in private and public, studied frame by frame. Reactions split along lines of fear, awe, and envy. On the screen behind them, still paused, was the moment Cole stared into the drone's lens with blood across his visor. He wasn't fighting, a representative muttered. He was declaring. The vote passed. Human combat units were no longer allowed in joint missions. Earth had been honored, and politely exiled, from certain parts of the Accord's strategic operations. A favor. A warning. Both. Back on Earth, in the foothills of northern Canada, Cole stood outside a makeshift barracks, converted from an old weather station. His squad had scattered. Alvarez transferred into Intel. Rios took a rotation off-world. Others retired. He couldn't. The wind bit at his face. Snow gathered in his beard. A low hum echoed from below the ice, drones scanning tectonic shifts. The world moved on. But Cole didn't. He was still there, on Zeta 9, on the ridge, bleeding and burning and moving forward when he should have stopped. But that was the truth, wasn't it? They don't stop. Footsteps crunched behind him. He didn't turn. "You always this dramatic," a familiar voice called. He glanced over his shoulder. Alvarez. She held a flask in one hand and a mission packet in the other. "Orders," she said, tossing it to him. He caught it. "I didn't request reactivation." "You didn't need to. They asked for you by name." He frowned. "The Accord?" She shook her head. "Not exactly. Someone outside it." That got his attention. Independent faction intercepted a distress beacon on the outer rim. Coordinates match a facility the Accord erased from maps 2 decades ago. Cole opened the packet. Sparse. Redacted lines. But one phrase stood out in bold. Origin, Virex THOL. He stared at it. "He's alive?" "Alive," she said. "And broadcasting. Why would he send a beacon?" Alvarez took a sip from the flask. "Maybe he's scared. Or maybe he wants you to find him." Cole looked back at the frozen range. Snow kept falling. The mountains didn't care who stood or fell. He turned toward her. "You in?" She grinned. "Wouldn't miss it." Aboard the stealth cruiser Abyss Runner, Cole reviewed the final log Virex had transmitted. The alien's face had changed, worn, older, his voice carrying a rasp that wasn't there before. "To the one called Cole Darrow, you were right. I was wrong. About your kind. About what lives under your skin. They're trying to recreate it. Your override. Without pain. Without choice. They'll unleash something far worse than you, something without a soul to ground it. Come. End it before it begins." The screen cut to black. Alvarez stood beside him. "Could be bait." "Probably is. And we're walking in anyway." Cole nodded once. "Because if they think they can clone what we are, they still haven't learned what makes us us." She looked at him. "And what's that?" He strapped in. "The difference is, we don't override fear. We carry it. And fight anyway." The Abyss Runner engines ignited, streaking through the void toward uncharted space. And behind them, the galaxy watched, quiet again, but no longer ignorant. They'd seen what happened when humans were tested. Now they would learn what happens when humans choose the battlefield.